He looked at his own mother, and something was deeply wrong. The face was the same, the voice, too. The way she walked, the way she spoke, the gestures. Everything was exactly as it should be. But to him, that woman was not his. Someone wearing her face, a perfect copy, a replacement, an impostor. And the most disturbing part? He couldn't explain why. There was no evidence, no change, nothing out of place, yet his mind refused to accept her. And what happened next made it even worse.
But it has been documented in medicine. There is a rare condition in which the brain recognizes someone's face, but does not feel the emotional connection it should feel. And when that happens, something frightening can emerge, because the person looks at someone familiar, but feels with absolute conviction that that face belongs to a stranger. In medicine, this was given a name. It is one of the most disturbing neurological and psychiatric disorders ever described, because it is not just confusion, it is not simple forgetfulness, it is not distraction, it is not a passing doubt. It is certainty, the certainty that someone close has been replaced. In some cases, the patient believes the mother was replaced. In others, the husband, the wife, the child, the doctor. Sometimes even the family pet. On the outside, the person still sees the same face, but inside, something fails. To understand this, you have to think of the brain as a system of two parts working together. The first recognizes the image. It looks at a face and identifies, I know this person. The second part responds emotionally. It confirms, yes, this person matters to me. When these two parts work in harmony, everything feels normal. You see your mother and feel that she is your mother. You see someone you love, and the brain joins image and emotion in the same experience. But in Capgras Syndrome, that connection seems to break. Visual recognition may continue to work. The patient looks and thinks the face is the same. But the emotional response does not come, and then the brain tries to explain that strangeness. If the face is the same, but the feeling is not the same, then for that mind, there is only one possible explanation. This person is not who they seem to be. That is where the idea of the impostor is born, not as a metaphor, not as an exaggeration, but as a real distressing conclusion, and for the patient, a completely logical one, because in his inner world, it makes sense. That is one of the most unsettling parts of the syndrome. The problem is not in the eyes. The patient can see and recognizes the face, but something fails. The problem lies in the invisible bridge between seeing and feeling. It is as if the brain says, I know who this should be, but at the same time, I do not feel that it is. And when emotion disappears from the equation, the familiar can become threatening. Imagine walking into your home, looking at the person who lives beside you, and feeling that something fake is there. Imagine hearing your mother's voice, but believing that someone merely learned to imitate it. Imagine hugging someone you have always known, and feeling that you are facing a stranger in disguise. This is not just a medical problem. It is a complete rupture of emotional reality. In many cases, this causes fear, distrust, panic, aggression, isolation. Because if the person believes others have been replaced, he may begin to defend himself. Some patients refuse help. Others avoid family members. Others start living in a permanent state of alert. Home stops feeling safe. Living together stops feeling trustworthy. And what used to be love turns into suspicion. That transforms not only the patient's life, but also the life of the entire family. Because on the other side, there is someone trying to convince him, it's me, you know me. And even so, it does not help. The face is there, the voice is there, the memory is there too. But the patient's conviction remains firm. No, you are not her. This kind of syndrome usually appears associated with different conditions. It can arise in some forms of dementia. It can appear after brain injuries. It can be linked to psychiatric disorders. It has also been observed in complex neurological situations. In other words, Capgras Syndrome is not an isolated disease in the simplest sense. It is more like an extreme symptom, a sign that something deep has failed in the way the brain joins perception and emotion. And that is exactly what makes it so fascinating and so disturbing, because it shows that recognizing someone does not depend only on the eyes. It depends on emotional circuits, on invisible connections, on internal responses that normally happen without anyone noticing. In everyday life, almost no one thinks about this. You see someone you love and immediately feel who that person is. That process seems automatic, natural, undeniable. But Capgras shows that even this can break, and when it breaks, reality remains visible on the outside, but changes completely on the inside. The most frightening part is that the patient often does not seem disconnected from reality in every respect. He can talk, answer questions, know where he is, remember facts, recognize details. But when it comes to that specific point, the certainty remains: this person was replaced. That is what makes the syndrome so unsettling. It does not destroy the whole world. It distorts one part of it. And precisely because it distorts only one part, it can seem even more convincing to the person suffering from it. It is like an invisible crack in the logic of the brain, a flaw small enough not to erase everything, but strong enough to corrupt what is most intimate: trust in familiar faces. For doctors and researchers, this syndrome helped reveal something profound about the human mind. It showed that recognizing a face is not only visual, it is emotional. We do not just know who people are, we feel who they are. And when that feeling disappears, perception can turn into delusion. That is one of the reasons why Capgras syndrome is studied so much. It exposes in a brutal way how our sense of reality depends on fragile, invisible, and extremely complex mechanisms. You think you know someone because you see that face every day. But, in truth, the brain is doing much more. It is comparing memories, activating emotional bonds, reinforcing familiarity, confirming emotional identity, all of that in fractions of a second. If that mechanism fails, even the person closest to you can seem like a fraud. And that is not a small detail. It is a radical change in the way of existing, because living surrounded by imposters means losing one of the most basic pillars of human life: trust in the people beside you. Without that, the social world begins to collapse. The family loses its shape. Love loses its safety. Presence loses its meaning. And the brain, trying to fill that void, creates a terrifying explanation: they were replaced. Maybe that is exactly what makes this case so powerful. It is not only about a rare syndrome, it is about something bigger, about how the reality we feel does not depend only on what we see. It depends on the way the brain gives meaning to what it sees. In the end, Capgras syndrome leaves an uncomfortable question. If even the face of someone you love can stop feeling real, how much of our reality depends on connections we never notice? Because the face was still there, the voice too. But for that brain, the person had disappeared, and in her place, there was only an impostor. If even the face of someone you love can stop feeling real, how much of our reality depends on connections we never notice? Because the face was still there, the voice too. But for that brain, the person had disappeared, and in her place, there was only an impostor.